What is going on, everybody? It is your hockey friend Mark, and today I wanted to take a little look around the league. We are about more than a quarter of the way through the season, and I wanted to just sit and talk and look at all of these teams, maybe through a different lens than some other people have. I'm all about staying positive, finding the positivity, finding the good in situations. So I'm going to go through each team in the league and give one point of optimism for all of them. I think there's something good to find in every team situation, no matter where they are in the standings. So that's what we're going to do today. Before we do that, though, go ahead and like, subscribe, share this video to all the other hockey friends, and let's do it. Let's start taking a tour around the league and finding some hope for every single team. We're going to start in the Pacific Division with the Anaheim Ducks. And the Ducks' optimism is simple. It's where they sit in the standings. I don't think anybody believed that at this point in the year, the Ducks would be near the top of the league in points, and the emergence of Leo Carlsson is something that should not only excite Ducks fans for this year, but should excite them going forward. This is a really good young team who is putting it together maybe a year or even two before some people thought they would. So for Ducks fans, the optimism is simple. It's where you are in the standings. I hope that as a Ducks fan, you can really sit back and take in the absolute mastery of this rebuild. The Ducks did it right, and it's proving dividends for them immediately. Next up is the Calgary Flames, and I know it's been rough. You're near the bottom of the standings, but your point of optimism can be that you have your goaltender. The big philosophy in building an NHL hockey team is build from the net out. And you already have that first box checked off. And sometimes that's the hardest one to fill. Dustin Wolf is an elite goalie, and he's only going to get better. So if you can spend the rest of this year selling what you need to sell, gaining the capital for the future, and knowing that no matter what, you have that elite stopgap in the net, find hope in that. Find optimism in the fact that kind of the hardest part is done. Edmonton Oilers, this one's easy. You have two of the three blessed. Number 3 is the Edmonton Oilers, and this one's easy. You have the best player in the world. Anything is possible. And the last 2 years should show that, right? No matter how bad the start it's been, no matter how tough it's been to watch, you still have Connor McDavid. And that can be your point of optimism for the rest of this year and the next 2. So be patient. It's starting to come. They're starting to heat up. And no matter what, no matter how bad it gets, you have the best player in the world and the other side doesn't. Next up is going to be the Los Angeles Kings. And to me, the point of optimism for them is that they finally found this balance of young studs and older veterans. They still have their Drew Doughties. They still have Corey Perry. But the guys like Quentin Byfield and Alex Turcotte are showing that they can be a big piece of this puzzle. And I think in years past, it's been a lot of the Kings have been an old team. Let's just be real. The Kings have skewed old. But I think their young guys are finally starting to come in and be big factors, and it's not just Byfield. Byfield has been good for a couple years now, but he's starting to get a little bit more help from that young core, and I think it's creating this really nice nucleus for them to finally, hopefully, break this first round curse and go on a bit of a run, because I think they have the pieces to do it. Darcy Kemper is a great goalie. Their defense is good. They have scoring. I think the Kings are building something really nice, and it's this blend of young and old finally coming together. The San Jose Sharks should be easy. Their young studs are here. They have arrived, and they're going to be here for a really long time. The Sharks are about to be a really big problem for the rest of the league. And like I said with the Ducks, I think it's starting a little earlier than maybe people had thought. Celebrini is proving to be one of the best players in the league already. You couple that with Eklund and Smith and all these guys to come, not even to mention Misa, who hasn't really even been around much already. Like, they're going to be so good. And the optimism obviously comes from the fact that these young studs have seemed to be an absolute hit. Now for the Seattle Kraken, their optimism comes from their new coach. I'm seeing the Kraken play with a structure and a commitment to the defensive side of the puck that I have not seen from them since their inception. They're a really committed team. They don't maybe have the high-end star talent yet, but that's coming. They have a really great prospect pool. But for this year right now, I think find optimism in the fact that they're finally starting to have an identity and a structure that will carry them forward. Now for the Vancouver Canucks, it's a little bit tough. I know things seem pretty bleak, if I'm being honest, but I think you can find optimism in the fact that whatever this era is seems to be coming towards the end. I think the Quinn Hughes situation is going to play itself out. I think the Elias Pettersson situation is going to play itself out. And, maybe that comes with an overhaul of the front office. Maybe that comes with new people put in charge to hopefully make some changes to give this team a direction. So I know that's pretty bleak, but I think you can find hope in the fact that this can't go on for too long. This version of the Canucks can't go on for too long. And no matter how it ends, I think it's coming up to its end. And for the Vegas Golden Knights, you can find optimism in the fact that your big players are still building chemistry. Marner and Eichel are only going to get better together. Throw on top of that Dorofeyev and Hurdle and all these incredible players that Vegas has. I think it's just time. I think it's just about being patient. And I think cut to 3 months from now, Vegas is going to be exactly where we all thought they were. So take optimism in the fact that they're already off to a decent start and they're just going to get better. These star players are just going to gel more. They're just going to find more rhythm. And I think come playoff time, they're going to be a really, really tough out. Moving on to the Central Division with the Chicago Blackhawks. Again, like I said with San Jose, this one is easy. Your optimism comes from the fact that Connor Bedard has arrived. He is here. He is the star that you, me, and everyone else thought he was going to be. And I think now the focus just becomes on surrounding him, right? And they've started to do that. There are some really, really good pieces in Chicago, but find optimism in the fact that Bedard is this good now, and he's only going to get better. These star players, they don't plateau. He's just going to keep growing. He's still only 20 years old. Like the Sharks, I think the Hawks are about to be a really big problem for the league very soon. For the Colorado Avalanche, it's easy. Just find optimism in the fact that you've given yourself enough of a buffer to where the rest of the regular season can really be about fine-tuning. Now, I don't think the Avs are going to stay on this pace for the entire season. They might, but history would show us that that's probably not going to happen. But they've built enough of a cushion to where making the playoffs isn't really a concern anymore. So the optimism for Avs fans can be that they get to spend the rest of these regular season games honing in, fine-tuning, really locking in their structures and systems so that when it comes to the playoffs, they are ready to just absolutely pedal to the metal, go for another cup. The Dallas Stars' optimism can come from the fact that they're proving to be a really, really resilient group. They have dealt with a lot already this season, and they're right on the Avs' heels as far as the best team in the league goes. This group is built for battle. They're built for those tough moments, and they've proven already, only in 20-something games, that this is a group that can handle adversity. It's a group that can have that next man up mentality, and they can just stay consistently really, really good no matter what sort of challenges come their way and no matter what they face going forward. The Minnesota Wild can find optimism in their goalie. Jesper Wallstedt has been incredible. He is a revelation for them, and he is somebody that can ride. The Minnesota Wild can find optimism in their goalie. Jesper Wallstedt, come on. The Minnesota Wild can find optimism in that they finally have their number one undisputed A goaltender. Jesper Wallstedt has been absolutely incredible for them this year, and this is the kind of guy that a team can ride to a deep playoff run. If he stays hot and the team builds that confidence around him, it can take them so far. Now, for Nashville, it's tough. Sort of like Vancouver. The optimism can come in that Nashville has a lot of really good pieces that they can sell off. And it's just going to come down to whether or not Barry Trotz can make the right moves to maximize those pieces, whether it's Ryan O'Reilly, whether it's Luke Evangelista, whether it's Steven Stamkos, whatever they decide to do and the sell-off that hopefully for Preds fans is coming. They just have to maximize it. So find optimism in the fact that there is potential there. There is potential to turn this around really, really quick, as long as the organization is able to move the right players for the right pieces. Optimism for the St. Louis Blues can be found in the fact that they have a deeper pool of young players than they've had in a really long time. Look, I know it's been rough so far this season, but I don't think this is a long-term downturn for the Blues. I think they have the pieces coming up in the system, plus whatever they can get when they sell. I think the Blues are deeper on the young front than they've been in a really long time. And that, for any organization, is a great sense of optimism, because it means the future is bright. And while it may be a little bit tough right now, I don't think this is going to be a long-term downward trend for the Blues. I think they're going to be right back into contention fairly soon. The Utah Mammoth can find optimism in what they built last year building into this year. You can tell that there is such a fire in this organization. There is such a determination to be great that started last year and has continued to build this year. And I believe will continue to build and build and build. And they finally have some real star players in Peterka and Keller and Gunther, Sergachev. The Mammoth are on an upward trend, and that would be such a great piece of optimism for me as a fan, is seeing that every move they make, no matter what, whether it works out this year or not, everything they do is geared toward going up. Everything they do is in a forward direction that will eventually lead them to be one of the top teams in the league. I fully believe that. The Winnipeg Jets can find optimism in the fact that Connor Hellebuck is coming back. It's a tough couple weeks without him, I know, but it's a really reassuring thing to know that that solution is coming. They're not wondering, how do we fix the goaltending? How do we fix all these things that are going on? He's coming back. They're going to have their guy again. And I think as soon as he does get back in the net, they're going to go back. They're going to go back to being the team that they were meant to be. So the optimism right now for Jets fans lies in the fact that their Vezina winning goalie is coming back, and he will be back sooner than you think. Now let's move on to the Eastern Conference, the Metro Division. I'm going to start with the Caps. The big piece of optimism that I can find for the Capitals is that they've turned it around. They were off to a little bit of a rough start there. It was not going great for the first 10 or so games of the season, but they've rounded into form. And I think it's really encouraging for Caps fans that that happened now and that they didn't wait. I think a lot of teams get into the trap of, starting the season really slow, feeling things out, being just a little bit like, we'll find it. And then all of a sudden it's February and you're fighting for your playoff lives. The Caps didn't do that. They turned it on, they turned it around, and now they're back to the team that we all thought they would be. Next up, we have the New Jersey Devils. And the piece of optimism I have for Devils fans is you have stayed the course while Jack Hughes has been out. A lot like I said for the Jets and Hellebuck coming back, Hughes is coming back. You're going to get your star number one center back. And I think it's really encouraging that the team has been able to sort of rally around each other and stay super consistent without him. They haven't had a huge drop. They've kind of stayed steady. So as long as they can continue to do that, and then when Hughes comes back, I think they'll shoot right back up towards the top of the standings. For the Philadelphia Flyers, it should be really, really encouraging that Trevor Zegras has seemed to find such a home on this team. This is a guy that had all these accolades coming out of the draft that everybody thought was going to be the superstar, and it just didn't work out in Anaheim. But I think the fact that he's been able to turn his game on and find such another level gives Philly another star option. They have Michkov, who, I know the jury's still out a little bit on that one, but having somebody like Zegras who can be that sort of point scoring forward for them, that flash, that swagger, is really, really encouraging. And I think that's just going to take them farther and farther as he gets more and more comfortable. The New York Islanders, this one should be obvious. It's Matthew Schaefer. Nothing would make me feel more optimistic than my number one draft pick coming in and being an immediate franchise changer. That is something that you can only dream of, and it's a dream that has come true for the New York Islanders. This kid is absolutely incredible. And again, whether or not it happens this year, I don't know, but your optimism going forward should be sky high because you now have that solid number one defenseman that you can build around. And like I said with the Flames, right? The philosophy is you build from the net out. The Islanders, they have Sorokin. Cool, check. They have Schaefer now. Check. You have your number one goalie. You have your number one D. You're building. You're building. You're building. And I would be really, really excited if I were an Islanders fan. The New York Rangers are a tricky one. They're a team that I think can find optimism in the fact that their talent far, far outweighs their results so far. Eventually, talent should win out. Now, unless there's something just fundamentally broken in that locker room, I think I would find optimism in the fact that this is a really, really talented team, and there's no way that it's not going to switch into form for them. I think that they made some really solid moves in the offseason. They obviously have an elite goaltender. So if I were a Rangers fan, I would just find solace and find optimism in the fact that eventually, again, unless something is just fundamentally broken, they're going to find their way. Now, the Columbus Blue Jackets are a tough one. Their results have not been great, and I think it's getting time for sort of a reckoning with Columbus. But if I were to find optimism, it would be in Adam Fantilli. I would want to put all of my energy into making him the face of this franchise, build around him. Yes, you have Zach Werenski. He's probably the best player on the team, but his future might be a little bit less certain than Adam Fantilli. That is a number one center that you can build around. And I think he's taking steps. He's gotten better and better. And that would be a guy that if I were a Blue Jackets fan, if I were in the Blue Jackets organization, he's the one that I would pencil in as the guy. So find your optimism in the fact that you have him. You have that guy. So now it's just about building and building the culture of winning around him. Now, for the Carolina Hurricanes, it's a little bit hard to find optimism for them because they're just kind of good at everything. So I guess that would be where my optimism would lie, is that there's not really a weak part of their game. They're super solid defensively. Their goaltending is good. They have enough scoring. And I think the addition of Ehlers is something that is going to really come to fruition more and more in the playoffs. I think the Hurricanes are one of the most consistent, solid teams, and that usually does very well as you get farther and farther in the season. So if I were a Hurricanes fan, I would find optimism in the fact that kind of no matter what, you know what you're getting with this team. And in the Hurricanes case, that's a really good thing. And last but not least, the Atlantic Division. And we're going to start with Tampa. Tampa's on an absolute heater right now. And I would find optimism in the fact that this looks like the teams of old. Jake Gensel has been an incredible addition for them. Kucherov is doing Kucherov things. And they're just clicking on all cylinders. They took a little bit of a step back last year. They took a little bit of a step back in the last couple years. But I would find optimism and real excitement as a Bolts fan in the fact that this looks like the Tampa team that won back-to-back cups and went to 3 straight finals. And now the Ottawa Senators. My optimism as a Sens fan would lie entirely in Brady Tkachuk. That is a guy that most teams would absolutely kill for. He gives you offense, he gives you snarl, and you know no matter what the situation, he is going to drag that team into the fight every single night. I would find so much excitement and optimism in the fact that I never have to doubt whether my captain is going to be locked in for a game, because Brady Tkachuk is locked, he's loaded, he's ready to go, and he is such a good leader for that group. Now for the Detroit Red Wings, find optimism in the fact that it all seems to finally be coming together. You have the goaltending, you have the stars up front in Raymond and Larkin, you have the big guys in the back with Moritz Seider, and I think I would be excited as a Red Wings fan to finally see this vision sort of coming together. Now, they're going to have to sustain it, they're going to have to maintain it, but I think this year more than any year before, we're seeing what this team was supposed to be for the last couple of years, and that is really exciting. For the Boston Bruins, find optimism in the fact that you have found an absolute stud in Morgan Geekie. You found another elite goal scorer next to Pasternak. That's really exciting for this team who I think people all thought was going to take a really big step back this year, and they're just not. They're just doing Bruin things. And my optimism as a fan would be in that, okay, we have two guys now who can go get us a goal no matter what. And as the season gets later on, and as you get closer to the playoffs and into playoff races, having that is so important. And you know now, Morgan Geekie is that other guy. The Montreal Canadiens can find optimism in the fact that this team is not finished. They still need a second line center, and I think they have the assets, the willingness, and the ability to go get one. So this team is already good. They already made it to the playoffs. They're in the playoff standings this year. But find optimism as a Habs fan in the fact that this team is only going to get better. They're not done. That's really exciting because the possibilities become endless at that point, and you can really sort of latch on to this hope that they absolutely nail that trade or they absolutely find that perfect guy to slot in, and then this team jumps to a whole nother level. So for Habs fans, be so excited for the possibilities that lie ahead for this group. For the Toronto Maple Leafs, I would find optimism in the fact that this team has dealt with so many injuries, and those guys are coming back. I think Matthews has been hurt all year. Obviously, Stolarz has been hurt. Willie has missed some time. The Leafs are getting absolutely ravaged by the injury bug. And while it hasn't gone great, the optimism lies in the fact that these guys are coming back. And Matthews, I know, is already back and sort of rounding back into form. Eventually, you'll get Stolarz back. And there's talent in this group. And I think the optimism can just come from the fact that this start, while not entirely, is largely to do with injuries. And hopefully those will all start to come back and you'll get the team back as it was meant to be. For the Buffalo Sabres, my optimism would lie in Tage Thompson, not only for the amount he scores, but for the fact that he seems really committed to changing the identity of this group. He seems really committed to making this group a group. His fight the other night was a perfect example of that. He was showing his team, this is what we want to be. This is what I want us to be. And he's leading by example. And I think that's absolutely huge for them. They need a guy, and they've needed a guy for years now who is that bought in, who is that ready to take the step and to be the emotional leader of the team. Now, I know he's not the captain, but in a lot of ways, he's acting like one. And that would make me really excited as a Sabres fan, that there's somebody on the team who's ready to change that identity. And last, but certainly not least, the Florida Panthers find optimism in the fact that this is not the team. Everybody's hurt. Everybody's hurt for a really long time. And you know what? You're coming off of 2 straight Stanley Cups, so that's fun. But the optimism for this season can come from the fact that this is not the team. And you know what? If this year is kind of a throwaway, imagine if the Panthers, they have a down year this year, they end up with a top 10 pick, and then they get everybody back for next year. Look out. So Panthers fans, find optimism in the fact that, this year might not be it, but you'll be fine. So that is going to do it. Hopefully, I was able to give you some optimism as a fan of some of these teams. This NHL season has been crazy, and it will be crazier going forward. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share this with all your hockey friends, and cheers. We'll see you in the next one.